Ladies and gentlemen, the Kyayo Color Guard will present the colors, singing a traditional flag song. Welcome, Tony Morissette, Savannah Newman, Sean Whitegrass, Whitney Hunter, and Sophie Corman. In keeping with what has become an Odyssey of the Stars tradition, the Symphonic Wind Ensemble, under the direction of Dr. Kevin Griggs, will perform a concert rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner. Please feel free to stand or remain seated and to use this as a time for reflection as we begin this evening's festivities.
Clipper Anderson, everybody. Welcome, everyone, and we are delighted to be here to fet one of our favorite people, Lance Boyd. Give Lance a hand. Clipper is well, one of the older survivors of the Lance regime. Clipper was in the jazz workshop back in the 70s. And then we've known each other for many years because we're cousins. But in 1985, we toured with the jazz workshop, and that's when Clipper and I got to know each other. And that's when we started playing on an annual basis with Lance and eventually with Buddy. So it's been a great ride. We both have just loved everything about the festival, and of course Lance is the one person who made that festival happen, so yeah. So we'd like to bring up the third member of the festival trio. He is Dr. Bob Ledbetter. And joining us tonight is Rob Tapper, who, well, even though no one could ever fill Lance's shoes, Rob is doing a good job trying. I think he's doing a great job, actually. So here's Rob Tapper.
aesthetic energy from being in a place like Montana. A lot of us who teach here, a lot of students that come to the University of Montana enjoy recreation, like to be outdoors, go skiing, go fishing, hunting, hiking, biking. So, you know, there's a lot to offer. Well, I think that a state like Montana, a place like the University of Montana, affords our students the opportunity to engage the natural environment, to have experiences out of doors, and to translate these experiences into expressive moments in their artwork, aesthetic decisions.
The University of Montana allows me to have a really contrasting environment to the work that I make. It's really freeing to have like an open space of not seeing other work like yours around, so it's kind of my groundwork to do what I want.
My name is Jim Zhou. I'm a professor of painting at Fudan University, visiting professor at the University of Montana. I teach painting courses. I'm enjoying the time working with students, faculty, and staffs in the School of Art. My wife and son, young son, are also here. We love Missoula.
A typical art critique in the School of Art at the University of Montana offers a glimpse into the power of art instruction. Student artists present their research to a faculty-led peer group and have extensive conversations about the implications of each piece. They debate, cite sources, establish precedent, and they verbally and textually articulate difference and effectiveness.
We're excited to announce an all-new bachelor's degree online in the School of Art, the second at the University of Montana. It will be us, and now Media Arts has an online bachelor's degree, and our students can take courses in drawing and painting, as well as digital fabrication, data arts visualization, and graphic design.
We have student alumni that are working in the sciences, in business management, and also in entertainment. So a student of the arts can learn how to make a very interesting, engaging, and powerful artwork, but they can also take the skills that they learned in art school and apply them in a very broad way.
Please welcome to the stage Ashley Mayora and Carl Schwiso. Their work is featured this evening in the Dennison Theater Rotunda. Ashley Mayora is a 2017 Bachelor of Fine Arts graduate with a concentration in painting. Following her professional exhibit, Ashley will complete her art teacher student teaching as required by K-12 public certification. Carl Schwiso is a 2017 Master of Fine Art graduate with a concentration in sculpture and ceramics. Currently, his thesis exhibition is on display at the Gallery of Visual Arts on the first floor of the Social Sciences Building. Following his graduation, Carl will be attending artists' residencies throughout the U.S. and abroad. Both Ashley and Carl are emerging artists indicative of our School of Art. Please welcome the UM Trombone Choir under the direction of Associate Professor Rod Tapper. Wait. 15 aren't enough. We need some more. So joining them this evening are former trombone students of tonight's honoree, Professor Lance Boyd. Ladies and gentlemen, the Zootown Cabaret, under the direction of Dr. David Cody. Please welcome Kayla Mudgett, Gina Segrenci, Scott Collinan, and Jose Romero to perform Ucali by Kurt Weill. Ucali is a song from the French musical Marie Galante. It describes a utopian fantasy island of happiness where all worries are forgotten.
C'est presque au bout du monde, ma barque vagabonde, errant en gré de l'onde, me conduit
That's Levi Brown on the piano from Kalispell, Montana. High School. Johan Eriksson, our fantastic saxophone teacher. Finn Carroll, Hellgate High School. Ross Strauser, Whitefish. Eli Wynn, Helena High School. It's such an honor to be here tonight. Thank you so much for coming out and for all your support of the University of Montana and all the great things going on, especially in our College of Visual and Performing Arts. It's really an honor to follow in the footsteps of Lance Boyd, and he has been such a wonderful ambassador and liaison to me on my time here at the university. I'm really grateful for everything he's done, all the groundwork he's laid for all this wonderful, wonderful things that are going on with the students here. We're going to do a tune now. We were lucky enough to be invited to perform at the All Northwest Music Education Conference in Bellevue a couple weeks ago. And we thought we'd do something a little different. Instead of just playing traditional big band music, we thought we'd take a chance. And since 3 icons have passed away in the last couple of years, Michael Jackson, David Bowie, and Prince, we thought we would do a tribute to those 3 folks. So we had Eli Wynn on saxophone and Johan Eriksson, our saxophone professor, as well as Sam McKenzie on drum set. And then the 4th one was a recent graduate, Owen Ross, great guitar player. So we essentially commissioned them to write music, and we premiered it all in front of 300 music educators in Bellevue a couple weeks ago. It was great, really great. So we're going to do one of those tunes for you. This was arranged by Owen Ross, Michael Jackson, Cyndi Lauper, Human Nature. And the significance of this is that Owen Ross last year was the recipient of the Lance Boyd Award, and that award stands for, of course, leadership, commitment to artistry, and essentially giving and making sure that you're passing along what you have to offer. And Owen is a great example of that. Of course, Lance lived that his entire life, still lives that entire life. So this is Michael Jackson's Human Nature.
Not bad, Tapper. But it's time for Lance.
Jumping Jiminy, look at all these people out here, Lance, for you. Man, oh man. Yeah, sure, you betcha. Well, Lance, this is a night of celebration for you in all that you've done. And looking at all these people, they're here to not only honor you and the legacy that you've created, but to celebrate with you. And they're just a reflection of the thousands of students that have come across the University of Montana through your doors. And you're looking at 2 generations of Mackenzies here. We've all had Lance as instructors. We've really appreciated it. And all the students that have had you know that your true passion, even though it is music, is for your old sports teams back in the old homeland, right? Minnesota. And we have some things that came from the Minnesota Twins, and I'd like to read to you. It says, congratulations, Lance Boyd, on over 40 years of outstanding musical leadership, plus excellence, service, guidance, mentorship, and leading trombone and low brass musicians. The Minnesota Twins Baseball Club is honored to be part of the Odyssey of the Stars, University of Montana, March 4th, 2017. In addition to that wonderful leather, we have some other things for you as well. So why don't you step out just a little bit so you can see them. Bring them around, guys. First is a Minnesota Twins hat. Right there. A Minnesota Twins hoodie. Oh, let's see it. Let's take a look at it. Yeah. Cool. And a Tory Hall of Famer Hunter bobblehead. A History of the Minnesota Twins picture book signed by Paul Molitor. And a baseball signed not only by Kent Urbick. But his biggest passion, of course, is for the Minnesota Vikings, where our motto is, there's always next year. And we are honored to present to you from the college and all the students here at the university your own Vikings jersey. So let's see it. Spin around.
Please welcome Dean of the College of Visual and Performing Arts, Stephen Kalm, and the Provost of the University of Montana, Beverly Edmond.
The Odyssey of the Stars is designed to follow the many different paths that a career in the arts might take. Our celebrated alums include a Metropolitan Opera singer, an Oscar Award-winning actor, an Emmy Award-winning production artist, internationally renowned visual artists, founders of the Missoula Children's Theater and the Big Fork Summer Theater, a leading casting director and independent filmmaker, a prominent Hollywood studio jazz musician, and several master teachers, those who have deftly blended careers in education, business, and the arts. The students that perform for you this evening and that you support with scholarships will continue to enrich our culture.
Thank you, Provost Edmond. What a wonderful evening. Many of these artists and the students that you see on this stage this evening would not have succeeded without the generous support of donors and community members. I'm proud to say that scholarships remain a top priority in the College of Visual and Performing Arts, and as a result of the Odyssey of the Stars, $585,000 have been awarded to talented performing and visual artists since 2001 to students. Yeah. I want to publicly recognize our premier sponsors this evening who contributed $5,000 or more to underwrite these student scholarships. I'd like to call your attention to a returning premier sponsor who has generously contributed to this year's Odyssey, the Sidney E. Frank Foundation. We're grateful to the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation as well for their tremendous commitment to the arts education and to student success here at the University of Montana. I want to thank Doug and Carol Klein for all they do for our students and for this university. And last but not least, John Schaffner, a previous Odyssey honoree, and Joe Stewart have been stalwart supporters as premier sponsors for many, many years. Please join me in applauding the generosity of these premier sponsors who make a profound impact on the lives of our students. I would also like to thank the talented production team that created this wonderful evening. There's so many of them, but in particular, of course, Rob Tapper and Mike Monzos and David Cody, Maxine Ramey, all wonderful. Greg Twig, just tremendous people. I know I have not mentioned some folks, but they're in your program, and just tremendous help and tremendous talent. I offer special kudos to my fantastic staff, Peggy Nesbitt, Sherry Ferguson, Hannah Singleton, Christian Goldstag, Jessica Partain, Jeremy Parker, Haley Faust, and Jake Ferguson, whose dedication and work ethic know no bounds. And I continue to be amazed and inspired by the thriving arts community here in Missoula. Tonight, we sing your praises and say thank you, each and every one of you who advocate for the importance of the arts for more interesting lives and a better world. Please join us next year, March 3rd, 2018, mark your calendars, when we honor Emmy Award-winning producer Casey Criley. It's now my pleasure to introduce Lewis Nelson, alum of the School of Music and band director at Sentinel High School, who will introduce the film tribute to his longtime mentor, Lance Boyd.
Jealous. Wow, it's gonna be hard to follow the Vikings crew, let me tell you what. Thank you, Dr. Provost, Evans, and Dr. Calm, and Dr. Ramey for inviting me. I'm honored and humbled to be here tonight. I've given many speeches in my life as a band director, and this is definitely the most difficult one to this date. Frankly, I owe my entire career to Lance. Daily, I try to emulate Lance's educational style. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. Tonight, I want to briefly talk about how Lance has shaped my college education and how he shaped my career. In August 1999, I walked into Lance's office as a new freshman eager to audition for his jazz ensembles. I was scared for my life, to say the least. Lance welcomed me into his office. He sat down, looked at me over the top of his glasses, and said, "Let's begin." After finishing my audition, I nervously watched Lance scribble on his notepad, and after a minute or two, he said, quote, "I like your bright tone. I'll talk to you later. I'm a saxophonist, by the way, if you were curious." I said, "Thanks," snuck out the door, not quite knowing what to think of this guy. After a few days, a friend of mine ran up to me and asked if I saw the audition postings. Obviously I didn't, because to my surprise, I won the first alto spot in Jazz 1, right there where this lovely young lady is sitting. I was overcome with excitement and anxiety. I knew that this was a huge honor, and I also knew that this was going to be quite the challenge. Lance took a huge risk putting a freshman in his top band on lead alto, and I knew I couldn't let him down. Over that first year, I practiced my jazz music more than anything else that was assigned, including, at times, my private lesson lit. Lance was relentless with me, not because he was mean, but because it was what I needed at the time in my educational development. His intensity is what prepared me to play for my first UM Jazz Festival. That year, Peter Erskine and Byron Stripling were the headliners. I was scared to death of working with Peter Erskine. He had a reputation of being difficult, to say the least. Luckily, I was ready for him due to Lance's continuous encouragement. And beatings, and we'll go there. Unfortunately, Lance was unable to prepare me for what Brian Stripling brought to the table. Was anyone at that concert? Yeah. You see, Byron is a larger-than-life Louis Armstrong impersonator, performer, and comedian. I didn't know this at the time, but he definitely enjoys taking the comedian part to the next level. Towards the end of his set, Byron pointed at me and had me stand up in front of the jazz band. I, of course, eagerly jumped up, and he had me do some interesting vocal call and response with him. Some ooh, baby, yeah, 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 some stuff like that. And he had me sing all kinds of interesting things with him, and at the end of the shtick, he asked me, quote, he said this, "Are you still a virgin?" I was 19. Now remember, every seat in the house in this university theater was filled up. And right there was my mother. She was looking at me going, "Well, son, out with it." And he was doing that right there, on stage. After a long, awkward pause, very long, Byron patted me on the back and I sat down waiting to die. What I learned on this night was humility, and I also learned that Lance does actually laugh. Seeing him laugh made this torture worth it. Thank you, Lance. After graduating from UM, I moved to Arizona and earned a master's degree in jazz education from Arizona State. After my degree, I landed a great job at Highland High School in Gilbert, Arizona, a suburb of Phoenix. Highland had over 3,000 students in it. For a school this size, I discovered the jazz band was less than inspiring when I got there, and the 200-piece marching band definitely ruled the program. I knew I had to find a way to make the marching band stay awesome while improving the concert and jazz bands. This is where I used everything Lance taught me in regards to rehearsing a band and to change Highland's culture. When teaching jazz students how to improvise, I like to use jazz musician Clark Terry's 3 steps. Step 1, is imitation. In order to learn how to improvise, a person needs to imitate the best. Step 2, assimilation. This means using what we learned when imitating an artist and incorporating it into your playing. Many times, this step is awkward, and there is a high rate of failure. The key is not to quit and to keep trying. Clark Terry's 3rd step was innovation. This is when you take everything you've learned and you begin to make it yours. Lance, these 3 steps that Clark Terry put into words is what I learned from you and what guides me every day I teach. During my first 8 years of teaching in Arizona, I strived to rehearse my bands like you rehearsed your bands. I imitated and slowly assimilated to how you would teach tone, phrasing, pitch, blend, balance, discipline, and the most important lesson, how to be human. In my 3rd year of teaching, simply by ripping off what I learned from you, I grew my jazz program from 1 jazz band to 4. My beginning jazz band had over 40 kids in it. The same year, I took my imitation of you to the next level by starting a jazz festival of my own. I wanted to start a jazz festival of my own simply because there was no large-scale jazz festival in the Phoenix area, and also during that time, Arizona State did not have a jazz festival of its own. In collaboration with the Director of Jazz Studies from Arizona State, Michael Coker and I started the Highland ASU Jazz Festival. I modeled my jazz festival directly from what I learned from you, Lance, and what the University of Montana Jazz Festival taught me. While setting up this festival, I spent $6,000 of my personal savings to pay for Wycliffe Gordon, Bob Mintzer, and 5 of the best jazz clinicians money could buy. The first clinician I called was Lance. I needed his help, and luckily for me, he was able to make it to my first festival, which I feel was critical to its success. Oh, and I was able to turn a profit, luckily, get my money back. Lance, to this day, I'm still trying to emulate your lessons, and I'm finally starting to innovate from what you taught me. The innovation step is the hardest step, no matter what field a person chooses, because it means that a person has succeeded in becoming a professional in their field. Lance, thanks to you opening doors and having faith in me as your student, my career has blossomed, and I've finally made it back home to where everything started, Missoula. Lance, I am not the only person who is thankful for what you have done. There are literally thousands of people who feel the same way I do. The following video is a short snapshot of your influence. The world is a better place because of you and Montana owes you for your positive influence on jazz and music education in this great state. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Underdahl-Stamer. And I'm Barbara Rowe Willie. And we were students of Lance Boyd's in the 1980s. Sending warm wishes from Arizona.
Hey there, Lance. Congratulations on being honored this year at Odyssey of the Stars. I can't think of anyone more deserving than you. Currently, I am head of audio and mixer for 20th Anniversary Event Tour, and we're hanging out in San Francisco for a couple weeks, and I can't tell you how much of an influence you've had on my life to be able to even do this kind of work. You've taught me leadership, you've taught me how to be a better musician, you've taught me how to not drink too much beer before trombone ensemble rehearsals, you've taught me how to listen, to balance and blend, which, check it out, Lance, I do that for a living now. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you have an incredible night and enjoy. Thank you.
Hi, Lance. It's John Fedchuk. I just wanted to congratulate you on your wonderful 40-year career in jazz education. Wow. I always enjoyed my times visiting the University of Montana, and a lot of that had to do with the great work that you've done. Thanks so much for your amazing contributions, and have a great time at this special night in your honor.
Hey, Lance. Greetings from Kansas. From high school band camps to being your office aide, sitting in front of you in the symphony, hours of rehearsals, tours throughout the state into Canada, and being a participant in the first 15 jazz festivals, either in the audience or on stage. I have so many great memories of you. You impacted my career, my life, in many meaningful ways. Sharing the stage with Diane Reeves and Bill Watrous and Clark Terry remains some of the great highlights of my own career. You have impacted the lives of hundreds of aspiring musicians throughout the state and beyond, and we are all so thankful for your presence in our lives. We don't talk often enough. You're never far from my thoughts. Blessings on you, my friend.
Hey Lance, it's Chad Reap. I'm out here in Harrisonburg, Virginia at James Madison University. Wish I could be with you on your big night, but I wanted to make sure I sent you a message to say congratulations on a recognition that is so well deserved, and I wanted to say thank you for everything that you've done for me and countless other students at the University of Montana. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without you. So thank you for everything, Lance. I miss you. I hope that I can cross paths with you again sometime soon. Enjoy your night, Lance. Congratulations.
Hello, Lance. Congratulations on being the 2017 Odyssey of the Stars recipient. I still remember the day as a sophomore in high school when my band director, Fred Nelson, told me that I needed to study with you, and I've never looked back. I owe much of my success as the director of jazz studies at Sam Houston State University to modeling and watching you and your passion for music. You can take the boy out of the UM Jazz program, but not the UM Jazz program out of the boy. Congratulations, Lance.
Congratulations, Lance. Chad and I are both so pleased to honor you for being such an outstanding music educator and band leader. Sharing your love for the music, for the students, and perhaps most of all for jazz bands has been one of my life's great treasures. Through the years, as we've welcomed other jazz ambassadors from all over the world, coming to share their experiences and innovations with Montana's creme de la creme music students, we recognize what a truly unique Odyssey of the Stars you've provided. Thank you for teaching with so much joy, so much tenacity, and so much energy.
Hi, Lance. Thanks for everything, your support, your guidance, your knowledge. I have great memories playing in the trombone studio, jazz band, and trombone ensemble. Enjoy the evening, and go Vikings.
Congratulations, Lance, on this well-deserved honor. I wish I could be there to celebrate with you. Thank you so much for your dedication to teaching and for everything you gave to me and my friends at the University of Montana. We owe our lives in music to you. Cheers.
Hey Lance, it's Tony Hammond. Just wanted to wish you congratulations on your honor of being one of the stars in the Odyssey of the Stars. You meant a lot to me in my education, being patient with a young, raw talent who didn't even know what he was going to do. And thank you. You were always very quick to give praise and also quick to take the blame, but always deflective of congratulations. But this time you can't deflect it anymore. You deserve every honor you get tonight. And thank you very much.
Hi! As a teacher, Lance taught me two very important lessons. One, take everything down an octave. Two, pants are always optional.
Please welcome President Sheila Stearns, Dean Stephen Combe, and tonight's honoree, Lance Boyd.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Stearns will now induct Lance Boyd into the College of Visual and Performing Arts Hall of Honor.
Good evening. Such a pleasure to be here in the George and Jane Dennison Theater with Jane Dennison sitting quite close to me. So what an honor to be able to make this presentation tonight. The University of Montana College of Visual and Performing Arts salutes Lance Boyd, a Montana treasure, recognized for being a champion of America's only original musical genre, jazz. Dedicated to bringing jazz education to UM and founding the nationally known Buddy DeFranco Jazz Festival, bringing noted jazz artists to UM to enlighten students and the Montana music community. An outstanding teacher, inspiring generations of students who have gone on to become performers, professors, entrepreneurs, and public school music teachers. Tonight, the College of Visual and Performing Arts celebrates Lance Boyd as one of its greats, inducting him into the College of Visual and Performing Arts Hall of Honor on this day, March 4, 2017.
Thank you.
Wow. I do have some notes that I need to pull out of my pocket, and believe it or not, they are short. But this is a great honor. This is really one of the highlights of my life, to be here tonight receiving the Odyssey of the Stars award. It's an award which, of course, has my name on it, but if I were to actually include all those that are equally deserving, there isn't a plaque big enough to hold all those names, because my music faculty, friends, and colleagues over the years, students like the ones you see on stage that put that gave their all tonight for me, and we'd only known each other a couple of days. They made the experience of 40 plus years putting together a program, probably the greatest experience of my life. And I would like I'd like to make some introductions before I continue. Could I get the house lights up for just a second? Thank you. And who I'd like to introduce, and I will have you just, I know you're going to want to greet them. This is my family who are here tonight. And before we greet them, let me introduce all of them, and they can raise their hands and you can see who they are. First of all, my wife, Fern, of almost 36 years. See? They want to applaud you right away, Fern. I couldn't stop them. Many of you, of course, know Fern is professor of cello at the university, principal cellist in the Missoula Symphony, and she is the artistic director of the string orchestra, the Rockies. So she's a very busy lady. Also in attendance tonight, my daughter, Megan, who is the head of the dance program at Naugatuck Community College in Waterbury, Connecticut. Before that, she lived in New York City and was taught at Hunter College, taught at St. Anne's, and was very active as a dancer in the dance scene in New York. Then we get down to my son, Justin. Justin is my youngest. I do have an older son. And Justin worked for the last 3 years at Missoula Parks and Recreation, and is now back at the university getting a degree in Parks and Recreation Management. So very proud of him. And thanks again. My brother, one of the teaching boys, all the boys seem to somehow wind up in the field of teaching. In addition to Scott, who I'm introducing at this point, my older brother Bob, my dad, of course, who was a teacher and an administrator, my older son Breton, who is teaching in Los Angeles, and his wife is also a teacher. So we have a lot to talk about when we get together. So what I'd like to say, just in sort of thumbnail sketch terms, is just a little bit about how the program really kind of got started and how it came to be what it is today. It started out really in 1968 as I arrived on campus with the intent of pursuing a doctorate of education. And I'd always had a childhood dream of coming to Montana. I mean, it was a place that caught my eye as a kid when I used to go to the Saturday matinees at the local theater in my hometown and watch all those cowboys singing and shooting and carrying on, riding across the range. I mean, it was pretty exciting stuff, and it really created kind of a desire for me to be out here. So that was kind of the first part of it. But when I came out here as a potential doctoral student, which I never completed, but it did provide me with the opportunity as a band TA to conduct the marching band, to conduct the alumni, or I should say, the athletic pep band, and to teach trombone. So those are my duties. And there was nothing mentioned about jazz. And there was no thought of jazz really in my mind at the time. So it was a topic that was not even broached. However, I did want to give my trombone students the opportunity to play some jazz. So I had some arrangements for 4 trombones and rhythm section that I had done when I was playing professionally in Minneapolis. There was a group like that at a club called the Downbeat on Lake Minnetonka, and so I did a lot of those arrangements and thought, well, I've got them here with me. Why don't we give the kids a chance to read through them? So we did, and it was supposed to be just a fun thing to do, once in a while. But before you know it, it turns into a group, and the word jazz starts to surface at what had been up to that point sort of a classically conservatory-oriented kind of a department. Some very wonderful faculty members, by the way. It was a great place to be. We had people like Joe Musselman and Florence Reynolds and Eugene Andre, Eugene Weigel, and many others who were outstanding people in their fields and great performers. So there wasn't any kind of a fight, at least in terms of me trying to work my way into getting jazz into the program, because it was just something that we sort of did at the time. But the thing that kind of turned the table and started the whole thing going was there was a jazz band that had met on Wednesday nights. It was a reading band conducted by the graduate TA in the string orchestra program. So when he graduated, he actually got his degree, and he left. And the fellow they hired in his place wasn't really into jazz. So Larry Perry, who was the chairman of the department at that time, asked me in and asked me if I'd be interested in conducting that Wednesday night jazz band. And I said, sure, how much does it pay? And he said, nothing. And I said, it's a deal. And so that really is the beginning of of the jazz program at that point. Taking over that band and eventually getting to the point where you hear these kids tonight was what went on for the next 40 plus years. You know, actually, if everybody had brought their sleeping bags here tonight and a bag of Cheetos, we could have pulled an all-nighter, and I can tell you story after story after story about all the things we did. But you're just going to have to wait until the book comes out. The one thing I'd like to mention also is the Buddy DeFranco Jazz Festival at the University of Montana. That I feel that it's one of the crown jewels of the music school and also of the university. And that actually had its beginnings back in 1981. And that was our first UM Jazz Festival. It wasn't the Buddy DeFranco Jazz Festival at that point, but we had Bill Watrous come in as our single artist. It was a one-day festival. The format was pretty much the same as it's always been, which is for high school bands to perform during the day, and then Jazz Band 1 perform in the evening featuring the artist. And that's what we did for the next couple of years. And then that was going so well, so we thought we'd add a second day to the festival. So we were 2 days, 2 artists, 2 concerts, and that's kind of how it went. So that went on until 1998, and that's when when we reached a turning point when I hired Buddy DeFranco as one of the 2 artists. The other one was Paul McKee, a trombone player, who actually filled in for me when I was on sabbatical. And they were the artists in that festival. And after the concert, Buddy's wife Joyce, who you saw in the video, and a friend of hers, Mike Stockland from Whitefish, came up to me after the concert and asked me, well, would I be interested in having Buddy as the permanent headliner of the Jazz Festival? And I'm blown over, of course, and I couldn't believe my ears, and I'm saying, yeah, when do we start? And at the same time thinking, well, this is all the excitement of the concert, and after tonight it's probably going to fade away, and that's it. Well, 2 weeks later, Mike Stockland called me and asked if I had considered it, and I said, well, of course I have. And I said, if you're serious about it, I'm certainly serious about it, and we will. I'll start pursuing the powers that be and see if it can be done. So, talked to the chairman of the department at the time, talked to the dean of the School of Music at the time, of the School of Fine Arts at the time, and I talked to the president of the college, or the university at that time. Of course, George Dennison, we know, was the president at that point in our history. And I talked to legal counsel, UM legal counsel, to be sure we had all of our ducks in a row. So things were falling into place. And so by 1999, we were ready to make a move. And so I got back to Buddy and Joyce and said, well, let's launch the first one in the year 2000. It's a great way to begin the new millennium. So we did that, and it was a huge success. Buddy was fantastic to have as a headliner, and that went on for 11 years consecutively, with Buddy headlining festivals that featured some of the greatest artists in jazz that we could come up with. It was a great run, and Buddy, unfortunately, his health began to fail, and eventually we had to. He couldn't make the trip from Florida. So, although we keep that festival going, as you know, with his name on the top of it, we sure miss him, and wish he was still out here year after year, being a part of it with us. So that's the history of the Buddy DeFranco's Festival, and I think it will continue to go on and feature the finest jazz musicians of today under the direction of Rob Tapper. And I just want to say, Rob, of course, and you saw him earlier this evening, you can see his work was the answer to my dreams when it came to me retiring. I retired somewhat late in my career because I was really not eager to let go of what I was enjoying so much. It was such a pleasure, probably the greatest pleasure of my life, to be able to work on a daily basis with bands at the time and with kids like this. It really is the reason for doing what I did and what I was trying to do all along. So anyway, I want to say that when Rob applied for the job, he had a cheerleader sitting in Missoula cheering madly because I knew what kind of work he had done at Eastern Washington University, and I was just hoping against hope that he was going to be the one that got the job. And of course it worked out that way. And with Rob and with his jazz colleague, Johan Eriksson, they have developed the program further. They've added a depth to the program, a breadth to the program, and still maintain a very high level of artistry and performance. And I really am so pleased to be able to come to these programs in my retirement now, and sit in the audience and listen to bands like you heard tonight, and enjoy and just watch the great work that Rob and Johan are doing to keep the program going. So I want to thank them at this point. Let's all thank them. I'd like to tell a little story, well, not a story, it's just, there are too many stories. You couldn't begin to tell them or we'd be here all night, but you heard David Morgenroth and Clipper Anderson perform earlier, and those two guys I had the good fortune of having in the jazz band program as undergraduates. And as David was indicating, we went on tours together, we performed together for a very enjoyable period of time. And eventually, of course, they needed to go on, and they did, and they both went on to great jazz careers beyond their experience here at the university. But as you can tell from listening to them, and they're wonderful performers. And the thing about those two guys is that we couldn't have built the Buddy DeFranco Jazz Festival the way it was without them being real key to the success. And I say that because the Paquito de Rivera and the Brecker brothers, and it just goes on and on, the great performances that we heard, backed by David, Clipper, and Bob. And the artists that would perform with these guys would always remark about what incredible players and what incredible talents and what a joy to play with people of that caliber. So we as Montanans should be very proud of our native sons who have gone on to develop that kind of ability. And so we thank David and Clipper for all they contributed over the years. These kids that have been sitting up here for quite a while now, and I'm sure they're thinking, when's this going to be over with? Well, very soon. As I mentioned, I was kind of slow in getting around to retiring for the reasons I mentioned. because it's such a pleasure to work with students like this and to do that on a daily basis. So thanks to all the music students over the years, all the jazz students over the years, my music colleagues and faculty that I had the pleasure of working with throughout those years, and the administrators like Stephen Colm, Maxine Ramey, and those that have helped me along in that regard as well. The state of Montana, as I was saying earlier, is where I've spent almost 50 years of my life and have grown to feel as though I'm not a native because I wasn't born here, but I'm the next thing to it. And my feeling about the state is one I'm sure many of you would share with me, and I'd like to express that feeling through a quotation by John Steinbeck. Now, John Steinbeck, a very well-known American author, traveled throughout the country on a nationwide trip and visited as many states as he could, and wound up writing a book entitled Travels with Charlie. And when he arrived in Montana, he was here just 2 days, but in those 2 days, he obviously was very smitten because this is his quote. He says, "I'm in love with Montana. For other states, I have admiration, respect, recognition, even some affection. But with Montana, it's love. And it's difficult to analyze love when you're in it." Thank you and good night.